Hey everyone, welcome back with a new lecture with ISO17025 2017 edition, and under process requirement we have selection, verification and validation of methods. The objective of this part is to know that the lab shall use appropriate methods which are fit for purpose to analyze the target analytes required by the customer, and these procedures shall be evaluated, shall be verified or validated by specific guidelines to ensure their accuracy and to ensure that you can get valid results using these methods. So any lab want to be accredited and certified according to ISO 17025 2017 edition shall provide the accreditation body with the validated or verified methods only. So if you have many methods to analyze your target analytes in the lab, but you have only one method validated or verified, that will be your scope of accreditation. You will send it to the accreditation body that you want to be accredited in this method. That will be scope of accreditation, and year by year you will increase your scope of accreditation. You will validate or verify another method. So validation and verification, and before that selection of appropriate method, is very important for any lab to be accredited and certified according to ISO 17025 2017 edition. Under selection, verification and validation of methods, selection and verification of methods. First point, lab shall use appropriate methods and procedures for all lab activities and also for evaluation of measurement uncertainty as well as statistical techniques for data analysis. And based on this clause, lab shall have procedures for all lab activities, and performance of these activities shall be evaluated, validated or verified to ensure that the given results are valid within acceptable range, after addition of measurement uncertainty. So that will provide higher confidence to the customer, and also results will be accepted internationally. And so any decision taken based on these results, based on validated or verified methods, can be taken with a confidence. All methods and supporting documents for each lab activity, such as instrument logbook, standard preparation, manuals, reference data, whatever documents related to the lab activity shall be kept up to date. You shall record daily everything related to the lab activity, and also shall be available to all personnel inside the lab, not only for the technical lead or technical manager, but for every person inside the lab. He shall be able to get any document related to the lab activity. So for each method there should be the following documents you shall have: SOP, standard operating procedure for the method itself, for the lab activity, how to do this, and verification plan, all performance parameters that you already evaluated, and verification report, also whatever the results you get during verification, and reference used for your method, and also for evaluation of performance parameters to verify this procedure. And as you know that validation will be for lab developed or in-house methods, but verification will be for reference methods. In case if you use reference methods to analyze your target analyte, so you need this point. Lab shall ensure that it uses the latest valid version of the method for all tests and calibration within its scope. Unless it's not possible to do so, when necessary, the application of the method shall be supplemented with additional details to ensure consistent application. So for the reference method, you shall use the latest valid version of the method. But if that will not be possible, in this case, the application of the method shall be supplemented with additional details to ensure consistent application of the old version. So you can compare between the old version that you use right now and the latest valid version by a replicate analysis of certified reference materials containing your target analytes. And if you get valid results by old version also, so in this case you can still continue using the old version. And also you can compare between both of them using F-test and T-test that I explained before. If you get accepted results or accepted range, so in this case you can still use the old version. And when the customer doesn't specify or select the method to analyze his target analytes, in this case the lab shall select appropriate method which is fit for purpose to analyze these analytes. But in most laboratories you will not find the customer selecting his method to analyze the analytes, but he will request from the lab, I want to analyze these analytes. Then the lab will start development and research to find appropriate method to analyze his target analytes and to find the instrument which is fit for this method and fit to analyze these analytes. And he will inform the customer by the selected method, and also he will provide him with all documents or all data to provide him with the confidence, all data to ensure the accuracy of this method and to ensure that they can get a valid results using this method. Lab shall verify it can perform the reference method by ensuring that it can achieve the required performance. For each reference method, you will have attached performance parameters, and you will try in the lab to achieve these performance parameters. If you get acceptance range for each parameter, in this case your method is verified and you can use this method inside your lab to analyze these target analytes in the specified metrics and to get valid results. Records of verification shall be retained for each reference method. You shall keep SOP, verification plan, verification report, and the statistical data for evaluation of these methods. So, verification plan, you will record in this the all steps that you will follow during your plan to verify this method, all performance parameters attached with the reference method and acceptance range that should be fulfilled. And in verification report, you will record the results that you got during your plan. After you analyze or you evaluate each performance parameter, you got this result, and this result within acceptable range. So at the end in the report, you will write that the method was fit for purpose. And also statistical data, all Excel sheets that you use to calculate the performance parameters, that also shall be retained. If the method revised by the issuing body, verification shall be repeated. It must be repeated. So if the issuing body for the reference method updated the method and issued a new version of this method, so the lab shall verify this method again. Verification here, as I mentioned in 7213, if it's not possible to use the latest version of the method, you can compare between both of them, between the old version that you already use and the latest valid version, by analysis or replicate analysis of certified reference material containing the target analytes using the same instrument on the same time, and then you can calculate T and F test. If you found that there is no problem by using the old version of the method, so in this case you can continue using this method. When method development required, this shall be planned and assigned to a competent personnel. Once the lab receive request from the customer to analyze specific target analytes in the matrix, they will start development for a method to analyze these target analytes. So that shall be planned, and also cannot be done with any person in the lab, shall be done with the competent person only. And after you will start the plan, any modification in the development plan shall be approved. So that shall be approved by the technical lead of the unit to ensure that this modification will be useful to get valid results. And also periodic review is very important. Is required to confirm that customer needs still being fulfilled, and that will be by the technical lead of the unit and also by the quality lead of the lab. Technical lead can do this by different ways. As example, competence. He will check the competence of the personnel in the unit by analysis of certified reference material or spike sample containing the target analytes, or even blind sample. And auditing, also he can make audit in different times to check that they are performing well. And also PT, proficiency test sample. This is very important sample that will be analyzed every year for each method in the lab to ensure the performance or accuracy of the method. So proficiency test is very important also to ensure the accuracy of the method. And the quality control sample. Quality control sample, this will be daily with every sequence, to like spike sample, blank sample, spike sample, whatever quality control samples that you follow. So it will be run with every sequence to ensure the accuracy or performance of the method. And by the quality lead of the lab, he will make internal audit 2 times per year enough, and he can increase this according to the rule of the lab. And deviations in methods. If you did any deviation to the method used for analysis of a specific target analytes, shall be documented and technically accepted, shall be verified to ensure that this deviation didn't affect the validity of results, and also authorized and accepted by the customer. You shall inform the customer by this deviation. So you will prepare a deviation form. In this form you will write the type of deviation and did this deviation affect the validity of results or not, and that at the end shall be signed and approved by technical lead and the quality lead. Then they will send this deviation form to the customer to inform the customer that there is a deviation and this deviation is technically accepted, and we verify this and we get a valid results. So you will inform the customer and you will take approval from the customer. That will be the deviation form. Method name and unit, in which unit, who is the responsible for the unit in charge, type of deviation, what is the deviation you did, and why did you do this deviation. It will improve the results, or quality control results was not accepted, that's why you did this deviation in the method. Corrective action, what did you do to ensure that this deviation did not affect the validity of results, or it will improve the results. And at the end you will take the signature of the unit in charge, technical lead of the unit, quality lead of the lab, and at the end customer approval. And to ensure that this deviation did not affect the validity of results or improve the result, you will analyze certified reference materials containing these target analytes. And all results or documents related to this deviation also shall be attached to this form. The second part of this lecture is validation of methods. What is the difference between verification and validation? If you have reference method for analysis of your target analytes, then you can make verification. With each reference method you will find performance parameters, and you will try to apply these performance parameters in your lab. If you get acceptance range for each parameter, in this case your method is verified and you can use to analyze your target analytes, and you will get a valid results. But if you didn't find reference method for analysis of your target analytes, in this case you will search for publication. You will search for publication to find out what are the researchers did before to analyze these target analytes, and you will try to adapt these extraction methods to be fit for your purpose to get valid results. So if you didn't find the reference method, in this case you will validate your method. Validation of method by evaluation of all method performance parameters according to specific guidelines you will select. As example, if you select your Eurochem guideline, you will find performance parameters, and you will try to evaluate these performance parameters, and if you get acceptance range for each parameter. In this case, your method is valid to be used in the lab, and you will get a valid results. If you found a reference method or a standard method, but this method was not valid for your lab, was not fit for your purpose, in this case you will try to adapt this method to be fit for your purpose to analyze your target analytes. So it became modified standard method. It's not reference method now, it's modified reference method. So this method also need to be validated. Lab developed or in-house method. If you didn't find any method to analyze your target analytes, so you will try to develop a new method to analyze your target analytes and get a valid results. So this is a new developed or lab developed or in-house method. So in this case, this method also need to be validated. And to understand the difference between validation and verification in details, I will add a specific lecture for that. So the lab shall validate non-standard methods, lab developed or in-house methods, and the standard methods used outside their intended scope. Standard method but used outside their intended scope. As example, if you found reference method to analyze specific target analytes in a matrix, and you want to analyze these target analytes but in different metrics, completely different metrics, in this case you need to adapt this method to be fit for your purpose. So it's used outside their intended scope, or modified standard methods as I explained before. So these type of methods need to be validated. The validation shall be as extensive as possible to meet the needs of the given application. You will select a specific guideline, as example Eurochem or any other guideline, and you will try to follow this guideline. You will find some performance parameters. You will try to apply these performance parameters inside your lab, and you should get acceptance range according to this guideline. If you get acceptance range for each parameter, in this case your method is valid to be used in the lab and fit for your purpose. And under this point we have two notes. Note 1, validation can include procedures for sampling, handling, and transportation of test or calibration items. As I explained before that in ISO IEC 17025 2017 edition, if the lab is responsible for sampling, so you shall calculate also measurement uncertainty for sampling as for analysis, and I explained that in details how to quantify measurement uncertainty for sampling in a specific lecture before. You can go back to this lecture. So measurement uncertainty due to sampling shall be calculated if the lab responsible for sampling, and sampling, handling, and transportation of test or calibration items, all of these parts will be included in calculation of measurement uncertainty due to sampling. In method validation course, I explained all method performance parameters required to be evaluated to have a method validation. But here they mentioned some of these performance parameters. These are mandatory. You have to. Techniques involved in method validation can be calibration, can be evaluation of bias and precision using reference standard or reference method, assessment of factors affecting results, interference. You will check the interference, what the effect of interference on your target analytes matrix effect, randomness, robustness through variation of control parameters like temperature, volume, whatever this, and also the time. With other validated method, if you found another validated method in the lab or in another lab to analyze same target analyte, you can compare between both of them by analysis of certified reference material by both of them, or proficiency test sample comparison, and that's explained in details in lecture of definition. Measurement uncertainty evaluation, which is very important to be evaluated for sampling and for analysis. And another very important point, when changes applied to a validated method, if you have method already validated and you proved by validation that this method is fit for purpose and you already got a valid result by this method, but you did some changes in this method because you found after some time that there are quality control samples, as example, not accepted. So you found that you need to add another step or you change something in the method. So if change is applied to a validated method, you have to determine the effect of these changes. The influence of these changes shall be determined. And if these changes are major, has a major effect, in this case, you have to repeat the validation again. So a new validation shall be performed. And you can determine this by your experience. As example, if you add a new extraction solvent, if you change the extraction solvent completely, in this case you need to make a new validation. If you new instrument used, but different brand, new instrument different than your instrument, so also you need a new validation. New step added to your method, to extraction method, as example evaporation or something else. So in this case you have to determine the effect of this change, and if you found that this change is major, in this case new validation shall be done. When you will perform a new validation for any method, you will select a specific guideline, then you will try to evaluate all or most of method performance parameters inside this guideline. But if the customer also requests a specific performance parameters to be evaluated, you shall do this, because evaluation of method performance parameters shall be also according to the customer needs. So customer needs or customer satisfaction is very important also in this case. And the last requirement of this clause, validation records shall be retained. Validation, you have validation plan, validation report, software used for calculation of these performance parameters, reference, whatever reference you used during your plan, statement of validity of the method, that this method is fit for purpose, and that will be written at the end of validation report. And many changes compared to the previous edition. I found in 2017 edition more details, and they differentiate more between the verification and validation. So 721, it talks only about selection and the verification of methods in details, and 722 also about validation in details. So difference between validation and verification added here. And also in performance parameters, some performance parameters shall be done, such as robustness was not mentioned in the previous edition. 2005 edition 541, test and calibration, it was by name, test and calibration methods and method validation, and 542 selection of methods. Here only method validation mentioned, but method verification not mentioned. 543 and 544 erased regarding undeveloped or non-standard methods. So for each method you shall have validation or verification plan, validation or verification report, and the SOP for the method itself, and working instruction for the instrument, and a statement of validity of this method. It will be written that this method is fit for purpose at the end of the validation report or verification report. And also you can make, it's better to have a general procedure for the whole lab about validation and verification of your methods, general procedure, which includes the following points. Purpose of this method: to ensure that all measurement procedures or all methods inside the lab performed are verified or validated. Scope that will be applied, this method will be applied to all methods, all measurement procedures inside the lab, including handling, as I said before, storage and transportation of test and calibration items. And in the procedure you will write a sentence that the lab shall use a validated or verified methods to meet the requirement of this document of customer, regulatory authorities and recognition bodies. And also after that you will detail that when it's required to make validation for the method, and when only verification is applied, can be applied, and what are the method performance parameters required for both of them, for verification and for validation. And that will be explained in details in the lecture for the difference between method verification and validation. That was the end of our lecture for today. Thank you, and see you in the next lecture.